Hello, lovelies, and welcome to another episode. I am so excited for today's conversation I have with Leona Krasner, who is a family attorney, and we cover all of the different legal things that couples might need in their life throughout their marriage and lifetime. So, not only do we cover what happens from the beginning of moving in together and possibly then getting engaged all through the way to the end of later in life in the relationship, and possibly if they happen to go down the path of divorce, what are some things to consider and do about that? We cover so many yummy things that people might not think about when they're first getting together to prepare them for a journey that's satisfying and worry-free, so that you're prepared for the future no matter what the future holds, and they create security and stability and smoothness in the life from the beginning. Stay tuned, you're in for a treat. Let me read you her bio and then we'll say hello to Leona. Leona Krasner is a founder and managing partner of Krasner Law, a family law firm helping folks in New York and New Jersey with their family law needs. Leona works to ensure that she and her team provide compassion, solution focus, and flawless execution for each client. When not practicing law, Leona enjoys helping students attain merit based scholarships through her company, Krasner Review, organizing concerts for children through her nonprofit organization, Toots for Tots and Teens, and having adventures with her husband and 2-year-old. Without further ado, here's Leona. Hello, Leona. So good to have you here today.
Thank you. Such a pleasure to be here.
I'm super excited for this conversation. A lot of times when couples get together, they don't think of these things. We're going to be talking about all things legal. So just the practical of life, not the romantical, the practical, because sometimes we get too mushy and we forget to take care of business, right? So we're going to help them think of all the things that they need to think about so that their relationship in their life runs smoothly and without many hiccups, hopefully.
I love it. And the idea is that the mushy is important, and we're often mushiest at the very beginning, right? So, what steps can we put in place at the beginning, middle, and beyond such that things remain wonderful and you guys are protected?
Oh, I love that. Exactly. So I think that might cover why it's important for people to think about the legalities of life, right? But do you want to say a little bit more about that? Like, why should they even think about this stuff? If they're in love and everything's beautiful and they want to have a happy life forever, they don't believe in divorce and they're going to be together forever, why should they think about these things?
So, the biggest reason why a relationship doesn't work out, in my experience as a family lawyer, is due to finances. In particular, not knowing about the finances, either mutual finances or the other partner's finances, and having there be a situation of financial control or a gambling issue or a debt issue or a secret wealth issue. These are the kinds of things that really break up relationships and marriages. And so, from the get go, being very clear and open and honest about what exists and also about what the plan needs to be going forward is a lovely starting point, such that that's how we began the relationship. That is how we continue the relationship. My husband and I do what's called financial review. Supposed to do it every month, right? Where I built out a spreadsheet of all of our different accounts and we pop in there, review it all so we know and have that transparency of what's going on. And that really reduces stress, I'd say, for both of us.
I love that. Definitely building in practices is very important, right? So maybe we could talk more about that as we go. And I love what you said that finances is one of the biggest thing. Usually when people come to us for couples therapy, some of the misconceptions are, or when I hear people outside of the context of therapy, they're like, oh, well, he or she cheated. Therefore, that's how you get divorced. And from my experience, that is not the reason people get divorced. And thank you for confirming that. Because yes, we could get through infidelity most of the time unscathed. That's usually not the reason why people get divorced. So yay. Thank you for that. So money, it makes sense. It makes sense. So it's not even that we have nothing in common anymore. We don't get along. We can't have the fun things. These are the things that trouble people. That's why they come to couples therapy, right? They think that those things are going to lead to divorce. So nope, we could work through those things. That's so funny. I love it. So, so we're going to have a financial conversation alongside a legal conversation, it sounds like. So this is so fun. Not my cup of tea. So I'm so happy to have experts on for these kinds of things. So happy that you're here for this. So why don't we start at the beginning of the relationship? A couple decides to move in together, maybe give it a trial run, right? What might be some legal things that they might want to consider slash financial to set things on the right path so that they prevent messes later, or just to address some of the things that you mentioned?
Okay. So relationships going well. You guys like each other enough to want to move in together. That is awesome. What I think is very important is to get a good sense of sort of what is it going to look like to pay for the things, right?
Mm,
So who's paying the rent? Is that going to be split or not? Who's paying utilities? Who's paying for Netflix? Who's paying for groceries? Right? I mean, truly, right? I think those are important questions to just make sure it's clear, make sure it's written down in
mm,
some capacity. Does it need to be a formal contract? Not necessarily, unless you guys have been living together for a very long period, years and years, then you may want to think about it. But
mm,
even getting into some form of writing, text message, email, hey, so here's the plan as I understand it, right? It could be friendly. You like this person, right? You're
right.
living with them. Hopefully things are wonderful, but having a clear understanding of who's paying for what, I think is very helpful.
And that spreadsheet that you mentioned before that you do with your husband is a perfect example of this. Okay, this is how we're tracking our stuff. There's the documentation right off the bat. So not that you're tracking and documenting things for the worst case scenario, but just so that life is easier. There's no misunderstandings. Everything's clear. You're just setting a good precedent for yourself and for the relationship, setting good habits.
Yes, I think that's
Very
very.
good. Good. So what kind of contrast would they consider if they've been together for a little longer? What might that look like?
So just making clear the parties may choose to have a joint bank account, right? So
Mm,
being really clear about how, the joint bank account, if things don't work out, how it's going to be split, right? If they've amassed anything together, say they are avid collectors of records or
mm,
beanie babies or whatever, right? They're collecting some sorts of stuff. What
mhm,
happens, God forbid, if the relationship doesn't work out, right? What does that look like? These are
mm.
called palimony type contracts. And I see and create those on occasion.
Very good. Okay, perfect. That's good to know. And I love the idea of like have your life, do your thing, but just have an understanding of what might happen and have more clarity on, who's is what or how you might address this in the uneventful thing that might happen.
Something also that's very important is anytime you're making more expensive purchases, say you guys live in a house together and there's a pool and it's the other person's house, but you pay $10,000 to have the pool fixed. Take a
Mm,
screenshot with your phone of proof that you paid the 10,000, right? The invoice, the
mm,
receipt, proof of payment. Go ahead, take a picture because I've got a whole lot of cases where somebody pays for something, many decades go by, and then you go to the bank going, "Hey, show me proof of that time that I paid for this." Sorry, we don't keep records that far. So it's your obligation to keep that record, okay? And with your phone, just take that screenshot real easy. Email it to yourself such
right.
that you will always have it if you ever need it.
Yep, yep, yep. What a good observation because we used to have the banks used to give you all the records once upon a time, right? Or they used to mail you the statements and they had the copies of all the checks that you wrote, right? Like this really old school. That doesn't exist anymore. So yes, what is your little system for saving things, right? So I have a folder where like all the receipts go into a folder. So perfect. If I ever need anything, you can dig into that folder, for whatever reason. So it doesn't have to be complicated, right? Just keep everything in one place. A file it could even be a shared file, like if you're in good terms, but just keep the records.
I love it. Be careful about the shared file
Mm.
because if things go badly and then somebody goes in there and erases everything in the shared file, that would not be good. So
Yeah, yeah. That's
consider
true.
having.
I'm wondering how, and this is getting a little too techy now, but if you with backups, right? So, but then that gets into like you have to track all the old versions of things, so there's overrides and stuff. But yeah, but you're right. So watch out for that. You might want to keep your own little things,
What I
like
recommend
squirrel your stuff away.
what I recommend, it's really easy. Take a
Yeah,
picture with your phone and then send it to yourself as an email, to your personal email. That's it. You're going to have it forever, knock on wood. Generally speaking, we keep our email addresses kind of forever. It's rare for them to be closed or shut down. So that's going to be a nice way to be able to later find that thing should you ever need it. But
yeah,
label it with the date and a description so
right.
it's not going to be as difficult to find, God forbid, should you need it in the future.
Right. And you could tag it, you could label, you could create a folder in your email server, and just put all those things in one place. That's another way. Yeah, for sure. Yay, create a little system. It doesn't have to be complicated. All right. So the next level would be, ooh, we're liking each other even more. We do want to make this more serious. Now we're thinking of getting married. We get engaged. Now there is the ring. People have all kinds of questions about this ring. Any thoughts about that and how to prepare for marriage in terms of legal terms?
All right. So I will happily talk about the ring should the parties decide that there are issues once they're married and they no longer wish to be together. What's important if you
Or
have,
even, I'm sorry, so even if, or what if they break up before they actually get married? Maybe that's the question first with this ring, right?
okay, so they're engaged, they didn't get married, there's no prenup. What do we do? Right. So the courts are pretty split about who owns the ring. So often parties need to agree. They need to come to some sort of understanding regarding what is going to happen as it relates to the ring. So my advice is this. This is bigger than the ring conversation, I would say.
Yes.
Have the important conversations about your values and what you want long term early on. All right. So, not maybe the first date, hi, how are you? How many kids do you want? Not that, right? Not
People
necessarily.
do that.
But, like I think I had these conversations with my husband over like our second, third, fourth, fifth dates earlier on. You don't want to be dating this person for 5 years before you realize they don't want children and you do, or they don't believe in marriage and you've been waiting for a ring for 4 years, right? So, getting a sense of what do you value? Do you want to live in the city or do you want to live in a house somewhere? That's very
Right.
important. Do you want to have 0 children, 1 kid, 10 kids, something different? Do you like animals?
Hmm.
Right? What's the long-term plan? What is your approach around money? Have
Mm,
these kinds of conversations early during the get to know you stage. Keep in mind you're just getting to know a person, so no judgment if they disagree, okay?
right.
But find out the answers to those important questions before you start banking on a ring that you're never going to get because the other person doesn't believe in marriage.
I love all those examples because those are all topics that I see when people come in for couples therapy, right? So it's so funny that they don't find these things out early enough. They're just banging around with these topics later on, and they're disappointed that the other person is on a different sphere, right? So it's okay to be different people. The partners will be different, right? That's the way it is, and they're usually opposites. So people get hung up on that, but the values thing is very, very important, and the vision. And sometimes we could get on the same page about those things too. Nothing's impossible. But if this really, really, really discrepant and you're just not feeling it, then like that's a cue early on, right? So I love that you mentioned that. Very good.
Think about the non-negotiables. Before
Right.
you're even dating, sorry to go backwards.
That's
Before
okay.
you're even dating, what are your non-negotiables, right?
Mm,
What will, one, you not tolerate, but two, what must you have? For me, I needed to be with someone who wanted children. I
mm,
needed to be with somebody who wanted to get married, somebody ambitious. So they'd be out there working because I'm out there working and I'm looking for an equal, right?
hmm,
Somebody who could keep up with me, sorry, right? In conversation where it's interesting and we're on the same page. Somebody who wants to raise children in the similar way that I do. So
mm.
before you even date, what do you need?
What do you want?
Won't you abide?
Hmm. Yes. Yeah. So figure that out for yourself first. And it doesn't have to be rigid because these things can be negotiated or come to an agreement as you go. But if people are really, really set in like this is the life that I want and somebody wants a completely different life, then that's it right off the bat, like right? So I love that. So now going back to the ring and then because then let's keep the timetable going. So let's say that they get engaged, but they didn't have these conversations and all this information comes out now and it's like, oh, maybe this was not the way to go because yeah, you do want to get married, but you don't want to have kids. Or you want to have kids, but gosh, you want to live under the water and I want to live on the moon. And how are we going to make that work? Right. And so I was like, what? But I don't know. I can't see this marriage working. And so maybe they break up. And now they're wondering what the ring, who the ring belongs to. I see this here and there. And so they're not in a court system yet because they're not married. Right. And I don't know that people go to court for this per se. They might. I mean, I don't know. But so what do you think about in that case? What legally, like, what does this mean?
Legally, it depends.
Okay.
All right. So it
There's
really,
no straight answer, right?
and can I take your example a little bit further? Would that be all
Yes.
right?
Yeah,
Wonderful.
of course.
Say these people aren't married, but they got a house together. They have
Mm,
kids together, right? What does that look like financially? So, in fact, they can
mm.
go to court. And I have several cases like
How
this
interesting.
now, okay, where, hey, we bought this house together. I'm on the deed, so is she. You know, I put down this amount, she put down that amount. Here are all of the improvements that I made, right? That's why I said keep track. It's so important, right? So, in that case where the parties have purchased things together and then the relationship doesn't work,
Mhm,
they're entitled to their share of that property, right? So, that is very important to keep in mind. Regarding the ring depends. But if both parties are on the deed for a property and they haven't gotten married, each is entitled to some portion of that property. So,
how interesting. The way that I learned this when I was in graduate school, they made us take a family law course, right? And so one of the things that we were taught about this, and tell me if this is eons ago, so tell me if this is still a thing in the legal system. Maybe it's outdated, it doesn't work like this, I don't know. And what I learned was that the ring belongs depends on how the ring was given. If it was given as a gift for a holiday, then it's a gift. Then it belongs to the person, the woman usually. And so if you give it to me for my birthday, for Christmas, for Hanukkah, whatever, then it's mine because it's a gift. But if you just give it to me in any occasion, now it's a contract to get married. And if we're not getting married, then the contract is dissolved. Then the ring comes back to me because the contract wasn't honored. That's how I learned it. But I don't know. What do you think about that? Is that cold water?
So, both people, generally speaking, want the ring and are fighting over the and so each will bring different arguments to the table.
Okay.
Okay. So, that theory is one theory I hear sometimes.
Mhm.
And it makes sense logically. To me, it seems to make sense. It really depends.
Okay.
Is the ring an heirloom
Mm.
that the guy or gal got from a relative? Right? Is it
Right.
something else? Where the stones from blah, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah. Yeah.
there's a lot that goes on when it comes to these rings.
Mhm.
Okay. So I appreciate you digging a little bit deeper. It really depends on the facts of the case.
Very good. Yeah. As with anything, right? Like all these cases, the law is the law, therapy is therapy, but you can't just apply an overarching just umbrella statement to everything. You have to play with the specifics of each couple or case.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, I appreciate that. Thank you. All right. So now moving this couple along, they do get married. No, actually, yes, before they get married, around the time of getting married, they do a prenup. Or they
Yeah.
might consider doing a prenup. Or
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on this? What makes sense for couples?
All right. So the media portrays prenups as this sneaky thing that rich people push upon poor people or people they want to take advantage of at the
Mm,
very last second and force them to sign. Couple things. To
yeah.
me, a prenup means you get to see the other person's financial like basically snapshot, right? You know what they're bringing into the marriage. And you know that you know because should they quote unquote forget about any accounts or any property that later is discovered, that prenup goes out the window for you, okay?
Mm.
And you're entitled to some portion of the marital share of such accounts, perhaps their growth or something like that, because the other person was dishonest, okay? This
Mm.
lets you know what each person is coming into the marriage with, how much they earn, what they have in their accounts right now, how much debt they have, any stuff that they or physical property that they may not have told you about.
Mm.
This is all useful information that shockingly often people don't know about their partner, even when they've been married 5, 10, 20, 30, 40 years. This is vital information if you're entering into a serious long term marriage.
Yeah.
That's very important. What else is important is the making of the plan as it relates to finances, right? Defining what's marital versus what is separate. But really, when we talk about what is considered marital property, right? Honey, like, how are we going to live our lives? Into which account or accounts is our paycheck? Are our respective paychecks going to go into?
Mm.
How often are we going to go out? What are we saving up for? What are
Right.
we doing regarding vacations, right? Here is the time to chat about money and what that's going to look like. So it's not, oh, well, I'm going to collect your paycheck and my paycheck, and you're going to have to come to me for permission to use any money, right? Whoa, 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 right? Having this conversation before y'all get married means you're way less likely to make a boo boo, right? And you get to set the ground rules regarding that, regarding spousal support or alimony, thinking about the future. You know what? Whether you want the law to govern or you want to say nobody's getting spousal support, that's another conversation that can be had here. Now, prenups don't discuss kids in any capacity whatsoever, or else they're invalidated. But this is the springboard to have very important conversations to hopefully do all you can to guarantee the success of your relationship.
Oh, I love that. So pretty. There was something that you mentioned, the different accounts and what's marital assets and what's individual assets or personal assets. So people that come in with so what let me clarify this for myself first so I make sure that I ask you the right question. So once you're married, anything that's earned thereafter is considered marital assets. Is that right?
Typically, yes. Yeah, absent a prenup, typically, yes.
Right. Okay, perfect. So then what's considered non-marital assets is stuff that people brought into the relationship. And
Correct?
then, but if they play around with the accounts or they use the money in different ways, that it gets commingled and then becomes marital assets. So that it's no longer your money. Now it becomes our money kind of thing. Is that right?
It depends.
It depends. Okay, fair enough. Depends on what the thing is. Did you put a pull in or what did you do with the money? Just kidding. Okay. So any other clarity about that? Like what should people consider if they worry about protecting what they're bringing into their marriage? Anything that they need to put in place at that juncture then? So that it doesn't get commingled in a weird way that they don't think about that might mess them up?
So, generally speaking, at this point, folks are often entering into marriages a little bit later in life and not 18, 19, 20, 21. At least here in New York and New Jersey, where I
Right.
practice, right? So, folks typically have their accounts in their own names already set up. That's
Mm.
usually before folks get married, where the paycheck goes, right? So, they need to take the active step of creating one or more accounts together, right? So, the idea is, I think, that having the conversations regarding kind of what the plan is important and to be sort of mindful of what you're doing, right? So, where does the money currently go? If you guys are looking to make a certain purchase where separate assets are applied towards the marital property that's going to be purchased, keep track. Take those screenshots, send them to your email such that you have them for the future.
So it boils down to what you contributed to anything that's joined. and keep track of what you contributed. That's kind of how you keep it separate for later. If if
That's
if you
exactly.
need it later. Gotcha. Very good. Okay.
Exactly. The aim is to be prepared. I want your relationship to work forever. I don't
Mhm.
want you to have to need me for your divorce or your custody matter or whatever it is, although I'm here if I become necessary. The idea is, I think, to put the pieces and the steps and the procedures into place such that I'm not ever necessary.
Yeah, that's lovely. Thank you for that. Okay, so now they're like, perfect. We have a prenup. We're feeling really safe and secure. I don't feel like I'm going to be taken advantage of, or that I'm going to take advantage of you, and vice versa. I'm comfy. I'm feeling safe. The mushy feelings are still here. We're going along with the marriage. Everything's feeling nice. What might be some things at that juncture that people might want to consider once they have that commitment in place? Any other legal matters that they should be putting in place for themselves as a couple?
Okay. So are we're engaged getting married, or have we already gotten married?
We at this point, I think we got married. We like each other a lot, and we're feeling safe with this prenup, so we're ready to go.
Amazing. All right. The marriage has happened. It was fantastic, right? So now making clear sort of what the plan is as it relates to finances, assets, that kind of thing, keeping track and checking in, right? So is there the joint account? Which of you, so both of you should have access, right, into that joint account. Both of you should be named on that account, have access. What monies are going into that account, what monies are leaving that account, and for what. Okay. Making plans, right? Having the conversations about what the plans are for the future, and what your goals are, right? Talking about where you all see each other in 5 to 10 years, etc. Sort of, what's
Mhm.
the plan? Is it the house? Is it the children? Is it a move somewhere? Is it an upgrade to a bigger, better, property that you guys are currently living in? Sort of, what does that look like? What's the situation as it relates to vehicles? That sort
Mm,
of thing. Continuing to have those conversations, being open and honest with one another, and being curious, right? So
mhm.
year 7 is rumored, and there's research actually that backs it up. Year 7 is supposed to be the most difficult one. We're after 7 years together,
That's
right?
so interesting, right?
Mhm. Oh, that's the real test of the marriage, right? And
Mhm,
a lot of, relationships can flounder at this point, right?
mm,
So be curious about the other person, right? Greet them and be excited to greet them when they come home. Right? I remember
mm.
one time I came home, husband didn't say hello. I'm like, excuse me. Hi.
Hello.
I'm happy to see you. Right. So we had this little
Oh,
chat.
I love that. Good for you. I love. Thank you for that.
Being excited
Mhm.
and showing that excitement to see the other person. We do a little something, my husband, that I call a relationship review, right? Where we sit down every Sunday evening, first thank the other person for all the ways
Mhm.
they went above and beyond that week. Then talk about what specific instances could have gone better, right? So
I
talk
love that.
adjectives. We're not talking about the past, we're talking about the last week, right?
Mm.
What could have gone better? And then what do you need to do to make sure that that thing that either happened or didn't happen doesn't ever happen again?
Right.
And then you
Like
move on.
debrief, tweak, right? That is so good. I'm not gonna put you in the spot and ask you if you guys have been to couples therapy. You don't have to answer that. But this is fabulous because all these tools and things that you have in place and practices, these are all things that we teach our couples to be preventative and to get on the same page and to synchronize and to create the love and to the appreciation and to nurture the things and to address the things. So thank you so much for reinforcing that. Coming from a family lawyer, people, yay. So good. Thank you for that. Very good.
And then before you nag, right, it becomes really easy to get into the spirit of nagging,
Oh
right?
gosh, yes.
Right, so think about the naggers in your life and think about how they make you feel every single time that they nag. Is that the kind of feeling that you want to be pushing on your partner in life? Or do you want to cultivate a relation of gratitude and thankfulness?
Mm,
Where you thank the person throughout the week for the things that they do and give them a little bit of grace, understanding that they're probably also leading a little bit of a difficult, stressful life where things sometimes happen. And those things that you want to nag about, you can save for relationship review time, especially after you thank them for all the things that they did.
Oh my gosh, that's so beautiful. Yeah, like I like to say, your partner's also on a journey, right? They're not going to be perfect also. And it's
Mhm.
okay to have that grace. It's imperative that you have that grace because otherwise you're always going to be unhappy. People are not going to be, they're not going to be perfect. So if you're looking for that, you're going to always be dissatisfied. And having that grace and showing that appreciation ongoingly, yes, that's the key. In that abundant and generous and compassionate heart, so good. So now we're being preventative, we're being loving, we're investing in all of the right ways, we're nurturing the relationship, we're preventing crazy things. In terms of planning anything else legal at this juncture, what else might people be considering?
Okay, so you're as you grow wealth and may you become very wealthy, you
That's
and your
right.
you're going to want to begin to speak with professionals.
Mhm.
Okay, so you're going to want to look into finding a financial advisor to advise about what that looks like as we enter, the period where folks may want to have children or not, or doggies or kitties, right?
Mhm.
Speaking with a wills and trust and estates attorney to
Mhm.
help create those documents for God forbid, what if, right? If you guys
Right,
have children, God forbid, you both die, right? What's going to happen to your children, right? What that's going to look like. Or without children, right? What's going to happen to all your stuff? What is it
right.
going to look like as well? So having those conversations at this stage, I'd say is very important as well.
Like estate planning kind of stuff.
Precisely.
Very nice, yes. Trust for the kids, possibly when you're doing your financial planning. Depends on how much wealth you have built or you have brought into the marriage to deal with all that stuff. Anything on insurances that you're able to throw into this mix or maybe just refer them to make sure you covered that you have enough insurances in all the right places.
Right. So speaking with a financial advisor who's well versed, right?
Mhm.
So maybe speaking offline with me or with Emma to see who we recommend in that respect. Someone who really is able to bring all of the tools and all of the vehicles to the conversation to see what kinds of insurance would make the most sense, right? So my husband several months ago took a fall, broke his wrist, right? It sucked, right? So
Yes.
had he had certain kinds of insurance, we actually, very funnily enough, we're in a bathhouse with another couple, and one of those people was our financial advisor, right? So he was there. So after the fact, he told us about, insurance that would
Mm,
have assisted with financial difficulties. God forbid should
wow.
that ever happen again, right? So
Hmm,
thinking about what that looks like. If one of you is a business owner, what it would look like if you, God forbid, when we're due to a medical issue or something else, we're unable to work for either
yes.
a short period of time or extended period of time, right? If you are looking to start a family, especially if you are going to be having the child, well, even for both, either party, right? Is there a way that you can qualify for some sort of insurance such that you can get paid during this time? Looking
Mm,
into supplemental insurance of that sort and getting educated on that. I think that's very important. Speaking with a CPA, critical, right? Having a professional who can assist in that regard and talking about setting up education accounts. We set
mhm.
ours up with our financial advisor, right? So if there's a child or children or one or more coming, making sure that that account is set up. So, speaking with a professional who's really well versed in all this different stuff that you might not even know that you need,
That's
but at
right.
to them, they will be able to guide you a little bit more. I am a family lawyer. I do not do
Right, right.
financial advising, but just from my own experience, I found this
Mhm.
to be helpful.
Yeah, yeah, thank you for that. It's so interesting. Sometimes when the insurance conversation comes up in any context, it's kind of okay. So you need the homeowners, the health insurance, the life insurance, the disability insurance, the this insurance, the car insurance, like all of the insurances, And if you have a business, there's a whole all the gamut there. And then when you get a little older, the long term insurance and all these other things. So definitely having a professional to advise you at what stage of life, what might you need, and what kind of policies or vehicles and even investment vehicles. So like if you're having a financial conversation, all these things definitely add to your wealth and to your well-being overall in life. So beautiful. All right. So at this juncture, let's say that people have been together for a few years, but they forgot to do the prenup. Or they chose not to, or whatever the story might be. And they might consider a postnup. Any thoughts at that point, what that might look like?
So yeah, absolutely. We help folks with post-nups all the time. And the
Mhm.
reasons why predominantly folks get post-nups are as follow. One, they were gonna get a prenup, and gosh darn it, they got married first. So
That's awesome.
shortly after, right? Shortly after they get married, they really want to do this thing. So I'd say, within a year or two, they
Mm,
want to get a post-nup for the same reasons they wanted to get a prenup.
gotcha. Nice.
Another reason is the financial landscape for one or both parties changes.
Mm,
Third, the relationship is not doing so well.
right.
And one party goes, listen, either you and I talk about this and, we come to some sort of agreement and both execute this document, or I'm going to divorce you. And so those tend to be the three main reasons why people get postnuptial agreements.
I like that third one. I think that what happens a lot also is like people like, oh, we might not make it, but I want to work on it. But just in case it doesn't, so to feel safe, while we'll try to make it work. Can we please put this in place so I could be still invested in this and not be worried?
Correct.
Yeah, very nice. Good. All right. And then what if it doesn't work? And they're like, okay, and they didn't do a post nap, and now they're heading down the lane of divorce. Any thoughts? I'm sure you have plenty of what's the best way to go about that so that they don't destroy themselves, their families, their future, and create more drama than necessary. What's the easiest, simplest, most beautiful way that people could tackle about getting divorced, going about a divorce?
So my advice is this. I'll be touchy-feely first, then I'll be a little more practical after.
Yes, good.
Okay, so have your support network that
Mm,
you go to vent about what an awful, horrible piece of something that other person is, and get all the venting done with those folks
hmm,
such that that emotional side that is critical, that you need to get taken care of, is taken care of with them, and then have your team to get the practical work done. Okay. Because often what I see, and I don't mind this at all, right? But I see folks come to me and give me the venting emotional. I'm just going to take him for what they're worth, right? I'm going to not stop until I blah, 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 blah. I'm going to use the kids as weapons. Stop, stop,
yeah,
right? Hold on, hold on.
yeah,
Get the venting done out of the way and then think about what you really need, what the kids really need.
yeah.
Okay? I'm ready to go to the ringers and really make a messy divorce that takes a long time, is crazy expensive. That's what somebody wants.
Right.
Okay? I'm handling a divorce that's on year 7 approximately, where they're fighting about toys, trains, and tools.
What? Come on.
They could have bought so many extra toys, trains, and tools with the money they've been wasting on this really dumb divorce. We're in
Mm,
trial about bullshit. Sorry, Emma. Right? Why are we arguing about stupidity when y'all could have moved on such a long time ago? Right? So
yeah.
have your venting people,
Mhm.
get your professionals, get your Emma, get Emma.
I was just gonna throw in there, like, like venting even to family member and friends, you have to watch that too, because that just creates a whole other set of things as well. So yes, of course, have support and know how to use your support, but definitely have a therapist because all that stuff, the hooks. That's why you're in a divorce for 7 years. That's not, you know what I mean. There's a lot of stuff going on there. Therapy will help and help you not do it so messy, so you torture your life.
S- Keep in mind, all it takes for a divorce to eventually go through is for one person to want the divorce. I still love you. I still miss.
Right.
One person needs to feel as though the relationship is irretrievable,
Mm,
irretrievably, irreconcilably broken down. It only takes one.
I
Okay.
know, right?
So having that professional, having Emma, in place to assist you with the emotional kind of impact of this trauma. It is
Yeah.
trauma. It is, right?
Sure.
It's not an easy breezy, beautiful thing generally,
Yep.
right? Deal with that part. And then really thinking about what you want post relationship, what's important to you, and
Yes.
then speaking with an attorney who can guide you on what you're actually entitled to, right? I mean, if the person on the other side only makes $100,000 per year, but you want $20,000 of alimony a month, I got news. There's not enough money.
Right. Not realistic, right?
Right? So, talking with a family lawyer, and I'm happy to give a free consultation for whoever needs,
Right.
regarding what you're actually entitled to.
Hmm.
Perhaps you have been the person making more money in this relationship, right? What some certain expectations can be on your end regarding having to pay spousal support or alimony to the other partner, having to
Hmm.
even maybe pay counsel fees to the other side, whether you want this divorce or not.
Hmm.
Having a clear understanding and clear expectations from the get-go, such that you don't get to court and scream and yell about something that there
Yeah.
just isn't any likelihood that you can get, but gosh darn it, you wanna yell it because you're mad. Not going
Right.
to help. That could be very expensive in terms of counsel fees, but it can be even more expensive in terms of parts of your life, just years and years of your life, just not, I don't want to say wasted, but just spent on this stuff that could have ended quicker and you could have moved on to a much happier, healthier life sooner.
Oh my goodness, that's so beautiful. Thank you. Yes, I mean the money is expensive financially, but it's expensive to your soul. It's expensive to your lifestyle. It's expensive to your
Yes.
relationships, to your timetable, your life journey. Like it's expensive, right? Like why are you wasting it this way? Just fighting over silly things potentially. You're just being stubborn. And if it's sometimes unrealistic stuff, like like the $20,000 example. If you can't get it, why are you still fighting for it? It's not gonna happen. There's no money. You're not gonna you can't get money that isn't there. Yeah. I see sometimes that kind of silly stuff happen.
Me too.
I'm sure you do. That's
Yes,
what you do for a living. God bless you.
yes.
Okay, so now people, hopefully, they were smart about it. They did the emotional work on the side so they don't bring that to the legal process and they could disentangle appropriately and kindly and intentionally and mindfully to the best that they can. And they are fair, whatever fair means, and everybody's as happy as they could be with how the decisions played out. And now we're post divorce, but there are some things that could still play out, right? Post divorce. What might some of those things be in terms of the divorce process?
So typically, when folks get divorced, right, so there's an order, there are things that one or both parties need to do. For
Hmm.
example, somebody, if they're children, probably needs to pay child support, some portion of add-on expenses. Add-ons include in New York and New Jersey, but are not limited to unreimbursed medical expenses,
Mm,
education-related expenses, extracurricular expenses, summer care, child camp, extraordinary expenses, right? So one party may have to pay those or some portion thereof, and they
mhm.
don't. Perhaps
Yes.
a house needs to get sold and isn't, or somebody sells it and doesn't give any money or the right amount of money to the other person as they were supposed to do it.
Mm.
Um, for example, someone's withholding a passport or the children or
Oh my
something like that,
goodness.
right? So something that was supposed to have happened in the agreement isn't happening, right? So folks may need to go to court for something like that.
Yeah. Okay. And then assuming that they didn't get divorced and that things worked out well and they're still married and it's later, they've been together for a while and they're in life, what might be some legal things that might come up later that people might have to deal with? And maybe I don't know if I jumped the gun. Anything about custody before we move forward to if there wasn't a divorce? So let's go back to the divorce stage, So anything to highlight about custody, how to approach that or to keep in mind or how to go about that?
The key, I think, is to think about what is best for your children. right? You might decide you hate the other person with a fiery, burning passion, but you know that they're a good parent,
Mm,
or at least your children really enjoy spending time with that parent and nothing all that bad
right.
happened. And even if you don't like their new girlfriend or boyfriend or something like that, right? So thinking about the children first and not weaponizing them. I
Hmm.
see kids weaponized a lot
Yeah.
when it comes to custody. And listen, custody is a thing, whether people were married or not, right? So folks who are unmarried can, break up and
Right.
will have to deal with these kinds of things. Don't weaponize the children, right? Or they're going to have to go and see Emma and Emma's colleagues for basically ever after because you screwed them up. Don't screw up your children. Don't
Mm,
do it. It is your obligation as a parent to keep your adult stuff separate. Don't stoop to the level that you are hurting your kids. Don't do it.
very good. Yes. Thank you. Okay. And so now maybe they didn't get divorced and we're in that later stage of life or together for a bunch of years and like there might be some other legal things that we might have to consider in life. Like what might be some other things?
So, I mean, I'm a family lawyer. So when things are amazing and folks are celebrating their 30th, 40th, 50th anniversary, hopefully nobody's calling me, right? If somebody is calling me, it's usually because they've been married a long time, 20 plus years. Kids are big or relatively big, high school, college, beyond, right? The kids aren't the thing anymore, right? So they stuck it out, right? And are now ready to free themselves. So
Mm,
I think as the children are leaving the nest, think about whether this relationship suits you, whether
mm,
you come home happy and it makes you excited and feel like a load is coming off your shoulders when you walk through that door, or if the stress is piling on. Okay. And your relationship after the kids are grown is going to be real different than your first and second and third date. It's going to be different than the wedding day, right? So, what are you looking for now that the kids are big, right? How do you want your relationship to go? Or do you want it to be done?
right. Are there matters that you see at this juncture? Like what might be some either custody or children or family issues that might come up that have nothing to do with the marriage? Like what might be some other legal matters that as a family lawyer you deal with?
So, often the folks aren't in a good place, right? So, one parent is withholding the children from another,
Mm,
one parent just left, disappeared, and the other for years, sometimes decades, right? And one person meets somebody new but is technically still married to that other person. That's more common,
right.
I think, actually,
Yeah.
right? You have marriages of convenience
Mm,
sometimes where somebody, enters into a marriage to help somebody out, get a green card, right? Whatever it is, right?
mhm,
Those
mhm.
kinds of marriages, but then they meet somebody they actually love and want to be with, right? So there are some sort of interesting complications there. What if one person's withholding the passport or refusing to allow the other parent to renew the passport, right?
Wow.
But if one person wants to vaccinate the children and the other person does not, the court's position in New York and New Jersey is the what is best for the children, right? That
Mm,
is what the court considers to be the most important.
yeah.
Absent really good reasons, generally speaking, the courts do think that vaccination is in the best interest of children. So that's something to keep in
Thank you for sharing that.
course. What if one person develops drug problem, a
Mhm,
drinking
mhm.
problem, a will not work or gets perpetually fired problem? What
Right.
if you've got a situation where, God forbid, somebody develops very serious psychiatric issues, right? One person gets really, really injured,
Mm,
right? These kinds of things happen and they have a toll on marriages sometimes.
right.
So,
Right.
my recommendation is this: I recommend speaking with professionals, right? Scheduling a consultation, even if you have no intention of divorcing ever, or say you're in a culture that doesn't believe in divorce, there are still options that could
Mm.
protect you, protect your children, and make clear what the plan should be going forward.
Very good. And also, I think I love that add-on. You might want to just have a consult so that you know how to structure or tweak your setup just so that you feel comfy, so that you feel safe, so that you feel secure, just for your own mental health. And then, God forbid, something goes wrong, then you're set and you're good to go. But might be preventative potentially, or might make that life easier later if you happen to go down that path. Very nice. Beautiful. Thank you for walking through the legal journey of people, of couples.
This
Oh,
was
I think you're
wonderful. Really enjoyed this chat. I love the little avenues that you allowed me to take and that we took together. And you were fantastic. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you, Leona. And any last minutes, like a last comment as a goodbye closure statement that you want to offer the listeners?
Yes, your job is ensuring your happiness, but you are also in the driver's seat to determine whether you're pursuing that happiness or not. My
Mm.
advice for you is this: start pursuing that happiness as soon as possible today, right now. Think about what you need to start doing in your life right now, whether you're with a partner, not with a partner, dating, not dating, married, kids. What do you need to establish in your life so you could be happy now?
Oh my goodness, you're a breath of fresh air. Thank you so much for sharing time with me, wisdom, and so much knowledge. I really appreciate you. And anytime we could have more conversations, there's a lot of good stuff here. So I would love to continue our relationship in that way. And to the listeners, I will see you at the next one. Bye.